Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Living Room Community Art Studio's live stream pop up art studio once more. I've got my coffee, I've got some art supplies. I'm kind of a little bit excited about what I'm going to be working on today because it's really messy and it's been a while since I've gotten messy. Usually, I reserve the super messy stuff for what we do at the studio. Because I'm just like every other community member out there. I'd prefer to make a mess somewhere else other than my own home. um, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to be using some Mod Podge and tissue paper. It's going to be a little bit loud. Sound is going to be interesting. You might be getting a lot of tearing sounds, a lot of Mod Podgey brushy sounds going on today. So if you like that kind of thing, awesome. But if sensorially it's just a little too much for you, that's okay too. I get it. Um, if anybody's out there and watching, say hi. Let's sign on. I'd love to know when you're there and when you're watching. Um, Again, we do what we can to chat with everyone during the live stream, but every once in a while I might miss things, and sometimes um, things don't always show up on my scrolly thing here. So if I miss a question or a comment, I apologize for that. Ah, hello, Annie. Nice to see you. Oh, so good to see you. Welcome back. Um, and of course, safe space applies. So if you're enjoying your time with us today, you're welcome to be here. If it's a little too much for you and you need to do something else to take care of yourself right now, that's okay too. You're welcome to come and stay and make art with us through the whole thing, or you can dip in for a few minutes here and there, whatever feels right for you. This is all about your self care, your wellness, and just an opportunity, really, for me to give you permission to create during this hour and a half with us. And you can create outside of this time as well. You know that. But sometimes it's nice to have that extra encouragement, that extra structure to your day. So Annie's here. Laura Brown is here. Hello, Laura. So great to see you. I've been thinking about Laura a lot with this activity that I've chosen for today because of all the collagey, Mod Podgey elements to it. And also because Laura was one of the first people that I knew personally who created art for their community in their window once we all went into this strange quarantine time. Uh, and if I might give a little background on this activity as well, again, you can do whatever you like. You can make art about whatever you want to make art about, whatever you need to make art about. I'm not the boss of you. Do what makes you feel good. Do what you need to do for today. But if you'd like to, you can work along with me to create your very own window art. Hey, Shelley. Great to see you, Shelley. Welcome. Welcome back. This challenge was issued to me by Santiago. Now, Santiago is a 10-year-old community member. He's been to the studio a few times. He's awesome. Santiago is awesome, as so many of our community members are. But a few days ago, maybe late last week, I got a text from his mum with a picture of their window, which I've shared on our Facebook page as well. But he challenged me to create my very own smile window. So a lot of people have been doing a lot of amazing art in their windows, and I haven't had a chance yet. So I thought, yeah, Santiago, challenge accepted. I'm going to do this. Now, his picture was this beautiful smiley face with a rainbow overhead. And I say, Santiago, this is Santiago's window. Santiago issued me the challenge. Oh, hey, kitty cats, calm down. I have a mini kitty cat battle happening beside me right now. Guys, just chill. Chill, okay? Okay. Are you okay? Okay. Studio cats. So he challenged me to this smile window, but he might have made the window with his family as well. So I want to acknowledge their participation and contribution to this as well. I know the smile window is its own thing. I think I've done a little bit of research, and if anyone else out there has information about the smile window thing, Chelsea, so great to see you. And then let's see. Oh, and yes, please say hello to one another if you recognize one another out there. I say someone and saying hello to Rhonda. That's awesome. Huh. Wow. I miss you guys. I miss everybody. Um, the smile window, it seems, is just about happiness, spreading that kind of joy. People putting smiley faces in their windows, in their car windows, wherever passerbyers or people in the community might see them. The rainbow in Santiago's piece reminded me of something that's happening a whole lot in the UK right now, which is a lot of folks are creating rainbows of hope and rainbows just to say thank you and to bring brightness to the days of folks who still have to work. So that's essential service providers, frontline responders, hospital workers, wellness and healthcare providers, the folks who are doing the difficult work that a lot of us might wish we could be doing right now, but we can't. We can't help out with. Or what we can do is we can stay home and take care of ourselves, so we're not endangering anyone else or ourselves. The rainbow, I guess, symbolizes a lot of things to a lot of different people. Um, but seeing the rainbow and the happy face together, yeah, what a beautiful, bright image. And even though it's not my job to encourage anyone to smile through this, because you got to do what you got to do, um, you got to feel what you got to feel. This is strange times we're dealing with, right? What it did make me think of was, the little things we can do for one another right now that might bring a bit of joy to someone else's day, that might remind someone that they're cared for, that even though we can't connect with one another, we're thinking of them. And I got to tell you, there's a family on my street that has been doing chalk art throughout this time on the sidewalk. And every day we take Alice on the walk. It's fantastic. It makes me laugh. It makes me smile. I don't know if I've ever actually met these kids, but just knowing that they're there and knowing that they're taking the time to create that art for us, for the community, for no one in particular, just because they can, it brings me so much joy and definitely a feeling of hope that we can come through this. And we will come through this, right? We will. So I'm going to create my own smile window and my own rainbow, my rainbow smile window combo for my street and my neighborhood. I invite anyone out there, if you have a window onto community, I invite you to do the same with the materials you have at hand. It can be something really simple. I know that when Bee was working at the studio before Bee moved, she created some pieces for the door of the living room just to say, we're thinking of you folks. Hold on to hope. We'll be back one day. My oh, my cats. Can you hear my cats? That might be a fur ball happening, guys. Exciting watching for you folks at home. Oh dear. Taking moments to create this kind of stuff. It's about kindness at the end of the day. And Santiago and his family have modeled beautiful kindness that each one of us can show in some capacity, in some small way, to one another during this time. Oh, beautiful. So Chelsea painting old rusty garden ornaments and hope it will brighten up people's day as they walk by or pass your house. That is fantastic. I'd love to learn more about that. And please, 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 please do share pictures. So if you're working on something, you can share pictures on our Facebook page in the guest, the guest area, but you can also post them under this event or as in the comment sections where we're talking about this project. I'd love to see what you're doing, and you never know, what you're doing will probably inspire someone else who's out there to do something as well. As I was saying, Laura Brown, who's out there, did this fabulous window full of, it was a lemon tree with a beautiful, gorgeous parrot. And I think if I remember correctly, also had written up in the window, keep on squeezing those lemons. Because sometimes that's all we can do is searching for the ways we can turn these lemons into lemonade. And it's possible in small ways, at least for ourselves, it's possible. I wanted to give everyone an update as well about what I was working on after last week's live stream studio. Excellent, Chelsea. Thank you. Chelsea's going to share pictures, folks. Last week I was playing with color and shape and pattern, and there are a few things I created, so I'm going to hold this up now. maybe I'll put it underneath here so people can see it. So that was one of the first images that I did, incorporating the simple form of a heart, patterns of hearts. For whatever reason, I return to again and again and again. I find it really comforting. Um, you might have your own symbol or your own shape that you revisit. For me, it's hearts. And believe me, I've never been a heart kind of person. Um, I wasn't really a girly girl growing up, never really did those kind of things. But for whatever reason, the heart is a form I return to. Uh, Something about balance, something about imbalance, an opportunity to fill a simple shape and have a simple shape contain something for me. It's beautiful. So this was the first image I did with you folks last week. And then I worked on this page as well. So taking a page out of an old encyclopedia that was going to be thrown out, I just created those shapes and forms on this page and kept on going there. So you see the results of that. Now, the reason I'm showing you, in addition to just updating everybody, letting everybody know where we're at, well, let's see, maybe I should be doing it that way. Yeah, there we go. I'm not quite sure when we're upside down or not upside down. I'm having an upside down kind of day, if I'm honest with you. The other reason I'm showing you this is because I want to incorporate these hearts into the smile window that I'm doing. So as things progress and as I work on this piece, I'm going to trim these out and embed them into the pieces I'm making for my window. And hopefully it'll make a little more sense as we go. But again, if you guys are out there doing what you're doing, let me know what you're working on. It's always good to hear. I always love feeling connected since at the studio, it would be easy to see what people were working on. Not so easy now, but I always love getting updates from folks. Hey, Christine, welcome. Oh yeah, Laura saying, I usually have something in my window year round. Really? Do you? Oh, that's amazing. Fun stuff with Emily. I had a lady stop one day and thank me, and she looks forward to what we'll put up next. So that's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing as well. And I think for a lot of folks out there who have children in the community, you're experiencing your own strangeness, your own unique strangeness right now. And I do not have kids. I just have a fur family here. So I can't necessarily understand what you might be going through specifically. But I wonder if because that, that child energy, that youthful energy being in your house, perhaps it gives you permission, a certain allowance to keep on creating. Laura, you'd create no matter what. But for a lot of folks out there who have kids, it's not surprising to me that we're seeing this kind of window art, this community art coming from folks who have families, who have children. Perhaps it's a way of keeping kids occupied. Perhaps it's a way of teaching kids about what's happening, what we're going through in a collective way and building that empathy. Or maybe the kids just want to do something to support everyone who's out there. Regardless, I'm inspired. And I think just because I don't have kids, it's no reason for me not to give that a go. And give everyone else permission to do the same. Go for it. Hello, Anthony Granny. Anthony Granny just dropped by, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
So basically what I'm going to be doing is layering up tissue paper to create kind of stained glass effect tiles that I can cut and shape and apply in my window later. Oh, Alice, do you want to go downstairs now? Is that what you want to do? If only my pets could create art. Yeah, so I'm going to be layering up tissue paper in colors, then cutting them into tiles or kind of mosaic pieces once they've dried, and layering them into the window. So today's going to be a lot of messy Mod Podge on my end, tearing of paper, applying different pieces here or there. I'm just layering the tissue paper on top of waxed paper to give it a solid foundation, one smooth base that we can use. But I'm sure you could use, if you don't have tissue paper and you do have wax paper, I've also been experimenting with markers and Sharpies and things like that to create stained glass on the wax paper. I know if you've got crayons out there and an iron hanging around or a hair dryer, or if you're lucky enough to have one of those cool heat tools, you can even experiment with melting crayon wax and to create a stained glass look. And I know we've had some success with that at the studio as well, sandwiching the crayon shavings between waxed paper. Um, but today, yeah, I got lots of tissue paper left over, and I'm just going to play with that. Hey, Bees, good to see you. Oh, Bee says hello to Anthony, too. Anthony, Bee says hello. He's working on some editing stuff. Let's see. Yeah, and folks, if you're chatting out there, and I'm realizing that I'm not seeing all the comment threads for whatever reason, so please chit chat, talk to one another, and fill me in if I miss stuff. Just layering little bits and pieces, just like this. I'm going to focus on color groups of the rainbow to begin with, and we'll see what happens. I started working on this piece before, which is just a big patch of yellow. What did I learn? I learned it's probably better to work on smaller pieces if you're not at a living room community art studio and have the use of an entire table. It's messy. Yeah, it's messy. So smaller pieces for me that I can break up into tiles. And as they dry, then I can get in there and maybe play with some markers, some colors. Oh, Laura, bye Laura, back to work with you. It's good. Thanks for dropping by. And I'll be checking in with Laura later on to share some of the windows that Laura's been working on over time. Again, just another fantastic creative community member. And Nikki, oh, Nikki, so great to see you. Oh, lovely. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad you're on vacation. So happy to hear that. It's been a very, well, I can only imagine what an interesting time it's been for anyone working in academia or within the colleges or universities. With students, there's a lot of intense feelings going on out there, a lot of reorganization. The downtime is well deserved. But I'm so glad it's enabled you to spend some time with us this afternoon. Awesome. And for folks, if there are any other students watching, I want to remind students to check out the extracurriculars that your universities, your colleges, your campuses may be offering in lieu of the kind of social gatherings that you might have had in person. So Durham College, for example, have launched a whole series of online workshops and kind of just, I hesitate to call them classes because every student, if I mention that word right now, you'll probably tense up with anxiety. I know I would. But essentially what I mean by classes are things that are really helpful and enjoyable for lifestyle and socializing. So things like meditation classes, cooking classes. I know you go through the Student Union or for Durham College, the DC Connect, or DC Students Inc. rather, and you can investigate what they have on offer for you. And it's an amazing thing what's been able to happen with all the schools, all the programs, all the colleges out there who just have to rally and gather their resources and see what they could do, how quickly they could change. Hey, Dan! Oh my goodness, Dan Walters join in the conversation. Speaking of amazing resources from our post-secondary institutes, I'm sure that Ontario Tech U has lots of amazing stuff going on there. I know we're in the middle on break from having student placements right now, but we're so looking forward to connecting with some new students who can assist us with all our online programming, everything we're doing here to reach out, connect, provide support for folks virtually, digitally. And Dan has always been a huge supporter of the living room, so special shout out, lots of long distance hugs to you and yours. But if you are out there and watching and not commenting and enjoying, like participating in the online chit chat that's happening, that's okay too. You can just listen to us in the background, have me on babbling away. I don't mind. Some people like that. It's a nice I've heard some folks say that it's just nice to have the sound on in the background, another voice. But if you are out there and you're looking to find out what the resources are in your community, you can always reach out to us as well. Um, and we can help connect to some of the interesting things that we're learning about every day. We get updates. Um, and I'm sure we can also get updates from the colleges and universities if you're a student and you're looking for additional ways to support yourself during this time, emotionally, psychologically. There's so many amazing, amazing resources out there that sometimes as students you only find out about as you're graduating. And I know the people are out there. They're waiting, they're wanting to be there for you. So just ask. You never know unless you ask. And if you're a student watching who's interested in placement, well, let me know. Send me a message, folks. Let's see. So Susan, hello Susan. Oh, fantastic. So Susan, we had some stained glass windows that I believe were donated to us. And I guess talking about the tissue paper and the stained glass effect has inspired people to think about those things. We found them a really good home because for us, we knew we weren't going to be able to use them. And every once in a while, when we get these fabulous donations at the living room of materials, traditional and non-traditional art supplies. Every once in a while, we come across things that are shared with us that, although we want to use, we really want to use them somehow, we know we can't. And when that happens, we reach out to community members to see if they can make use of them. And Susan, I'm so glad you could use those stained glass windows. I would love to see, let's see, what are you doing with them? Okay, they're safely stored for now. Oh, I can't wait though to see what happens to them when you have a chance to give them a forever home or transform them into something exciting. Amazing. What else are folks working on out there? Oh, excellent. Send me those pictures when you're done working on them. Yeah. Interesting times. And it's funny, with everything that's happening and everyone working so hard for some people, it's about working through this time. For others, for some folks, it's about trying to find a way to not work. Because for a lot of us, I think, who are used to going all the time, and suddenly we're asked just to not go, just to be. That can be incredibly difficult as well. It can also be incredibly difficult for anyone who's, including the living room, to make plans, right? Right now, this time is asking us to simply, what would it be? Invest a little bit more in stillness, invest a little bit more in, I'm not going to say inactivity, but perhaps finding what's most beneficial, what's best practice in this moment. It's really, there's a lot of mindfulness being thrown at us right now. A lot of mindfulness, a lot of things we've been invited to be mindful about. And for large organizations, that's difficult. That can be enormously complicated, or small organizations, when so much of the time the wellness of your organization is about planning, right? In some ways, the living room has a little bit of an edge there because we're small enough that we can be spontaneous. So if we make changes or decisions, or if the community has something that they want to see happen, we're in a better place to go with the flow, I suppose. But again, to all you folks out there, if there are ways the living room can help support what you're doing, please let us know. We might not always be able to do it, maybe not right now, but I'm sure we can do something, right? Let's see. And Lisa Cosma joining us. Hey, Lisa! Wow! I'd say it's good to see you. I can't actually see you, but it's so great knowing you're out there. So the hope is that these live streams just help people feel a little more connected to the studio in times where you can't actually be at the studio. And if it helps even a little bit, if you enjoy it even just a little bit, that's fantastic. And of course, if anyone has anything they'd like to see us try during one of these live streams, that's activities, perhaps themes, questions, art questions, challenges you'd like to put us to, just like Santiago did with the smile window, bring it on. We have an amazing, amazing, amazing group of volunteers, of supporters, our coordinators, everyone who's here, everyone who's watching, everyone who's participating is in their own way responsible for this really cool thing we've created, because an art hive is what the community makes it, right? It responds to the needs that are in the community, the questions that are in the community, the passions that are in the community. So without you folks, this wouldn't exist. So thank you. And of course, on another level as well, there's been a lot of folks helping out behind the scenes here. Or over time as well. We have, like I said, our volunteers, our coordinators, all those community advocates who champion us and what we do, help take us from one step to another, open doors for us that, well, I'd probably still be knocking on if not for them. Prying open the door a little bit to say, hello, who are you, weird art person? That's the reason I know that you gotta ask. I think there's a whole process in identifying what you need, first of all. Knowing that it's okay to ask for help or ask for support. And then there's a whole process that comes along with being actually able to move forward with that and ask the questions, seek the support. That's a journey in itself. It took me a long time to get to that place, and I'm still learning. There's certain areas and certain parts of this world that are very intimidating. But bit by bit, with the support of all these amazing people, I'm learning that it's okay. It's okay to ask. You never know until you do, right? You never know what's up there, what's out there, what's available for you. And then we get to the part about receiving, being able to accept when people do give to you. I'm still working on that one. That's a big one. That's a huge one, at least for me. Let's see what we got out there. Lisa's knitting, quarantine knitting. Of course you are. I wouldn't expect anything other. If you weren't knitting or crocheting, Lisa, something would be wrong in the universe. And Shane, what? Okay, today I feel wow. Today there's wow. Lots of wonderful, lovely people saying hi. Shane, it's so good to hear from you, to know you're out there. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Are you still wood burning? Yeah, I'd love to see some of your work if you are. Shane, another fabulous volunteer. And everyone volunteers in their own way. So sometimes folks are out there and they might feel a little guilty because they haven't been around the studio for a while, or perhaps they aren't able to volunteer or help out as much as they wish in the ways that they would most like. Life happens, right? You've got to take care of yourself first. That's the most important thing, right? And I try to model that too. So that's why you see from time to time, even on Facebook with these events, we're taking days off from time to time. We're taking breaks. Hello, Heather. Heather, how are you? And I'm glad. So collage is, yeah, I'm a huge fan of collage. Abstract collage like this is just super relaxing to do. Another kind of active meditation that helps keep your hands busy and lets your mind sort out things while you're working on it. I think that's one of my favorite things about visual art creation generally is that beautiful state you can get in when everything else just kind of melts away. And maybe if we were in the studio, like from time to time, you just hear everyone become quiet when everyone's working on things. That lovely still point. Of course, I'm rambling on at you guys right now, so. Oh, fantastic. So just reading the comments here again. I call myself a weird art person quite a bit. And sometimes I just want folks to know that I do mean that with, I think I'm trying to be kind to myself when I am saying that. One, because I really like weirdness. I've at a point in my life now where I feel really comfortable owning my weirdness and recognizing it for the kind of superpower that it is. And I encourage all of us out there, all of you, to, if you haven't already owned it or found a kind of peace with it, go for it. That's part of what makes you you, the uniqueness, the quirks, the strange things, even the difficult things, right? Oh, hello, green paper. Just going to add another layer of green here, I think. Get ready for the rip. Oh, why does that give me so much joy? And I see that Christine has been saving ideas for community art projects. What do you mean saving ideas? I'm curious. I think I was at the stage with this project that I needed to be challenged by a 10-year-old. I needed Santiago just to give me that little nudge. Because I was kind of stuck in that place where I wanted to come up with something amazing. And I think, again, what makes a project like this, like Santiago's rainbow smile window, so amazing, is the fact that it's just beautiful just because it is. It's not trying to be anything other than the beautiful rainbow and the smile. Again, another lesson that I'm continually being taught so often by young people, just to embrace the simplicity, right? Those like folks who've been in the studio, one thing you probably remember is like, or that impresses you when you're there is, well, I talk about it quite a bit actually when folks first come to the studio. Oftentimes I get these emails from people who want to bring children and it's quite intense for them and they're saying, well, do you have programming? Do you have workshops for the children? And over time I've learned to just let them know, like, don't worry about the kids. The kids are fine. Kids are still in that place where they're not afraid to create. You present them with the supplies, you present them with the possibility of creating, and they are off and running. Now, us grown-ups, on the other hand, yeah, we still struggle with that idea of wanting to do something different, something cool, something that needs to look a certain way. And oftentimes in that process, we become crippled by that desire to create something cool or interesting, whatever interesting might mean. And let's see. Yeah, the studio sounds. I miss those, even on the weirdest and wonkiest of days. Yeah. We wanted for a long time to do a time lapse video of the studio without sound or anything like that, but just to see the comings and goings. Because oftentimes it reminds me of, has kind of a tidal flow to it. There's a flow to the day and different currents of people that come through and connect with one another or disconnect with one another. Because, right, if you've been to the living room, you know it's, as I've said before too, it's not always rainbows and puppy dogs. There will be rupture. There will be those fabulous moments of, holy, what was that? And I, for one, I mean, I think those moments are really healthy and fabulous for people to experience, to know that you can experience them, to learn from them, and even when things get a little bit scary, to know that to be familiar with something that perhaps you weren't familiar with before, to know that it's okay. It's a kind of thing that the studio or the art hive does, which in therapy world might be called expanding or broadening the window of tolerance, right? It's just a fancy way of saying, you got this. You're going to be okay. Oh, let's see. So what else? What do we have comments wise? Let's see. Yeah, the sounds of working in the studio. I'm regretting that. I don't know. This might be weird, but now if we get back to the studio, I would love to record a day, just hear the audio of everything. That would be a fantastic sound project or arts project in its own right. Just the different noises and sounds of the people coming and going, the chairs scraping across the floor, the occasional baby crying, the occasional F-bomb from Margaret when she's counting her spoons or can't find the things she needs. The laughter, right? The grumblings. There's a soundtrack. There's a soundtrack to the studio. I imagine to every art hive, wherever you are. It probably has its own unique sounds. So that's a project to add to the list. Work, sort of conjure my inner David Byrne and get working on a soundscape project for the studio. And again, returning to that idea, hey Brandon, of just that creativity that comes from being the fearlessness, how do I say this? The way a young person approaches creating something. Well, they're not approaching anything, are they? They're just creating. I think, and that may have been Picasso, who is, fair to be, is a bit of a jerk. But I think he was one of the people that kind of captured that idea with you spend a lifetime learning technique, what is that? If someone knows this quote or can find this quote, throw it up there. Someone has to know it. Like a lifetime developing, like all this time developing technique essentially, and then the rest of your life you're trying to get back to what it was like before that period when you were a child, when what you did was play and invent and imagine all the possibilities. I think that's perhaps true for all of us. And if we can teach ourselves how to maintain that or to never lose it in the first place, that's an amazing thing. What does Carlos say? Oh, talking about community artwork. So some of the artwork you've seen with late night walks, and Carlos does like a late night walk. Yeah, and sidewalk art. It's sidewalk art. It's been amazing. Yeah, So encouraged by a piece of art to hopscotch on, and you did. Of course you hopscotched. Can I click on that? Yeah, there's so many wonderful creations. The art that was done down the street from me most recently was basically, look at that. So one side not so bright, but on the other side, nice and green. I'm not sure how well it reads on camera, but it's there. So I'm going to lay this aside. Cats, don't walk on it. Thank you very much. Me, don't sit on it. Thank you very much. Let's do that. There we go. We'll figure it out as we go. The art the family down the road, or the families down the road, created was recreating Trudeau's speech where he advised people not to speak moistly. It's the best. It was the best sidewalk art I've seen in a long time. Oh, and speaking of studio stuff again, back to studio stuff. Lisa, see, I am out of the loop with community gossip, folks. Not that I'm inviting it. I don't necessarily need it. I've got enough drama in my own life. It's okay. I got that covered. But again, the realization of just the studio provided this access point to connect with so many people. So if I've built relationships with certain people over time, knowing that they would bring in new people to the studio, or siblings or family, like Shane introduced us to his brother. Lisa was just talking about a special someone that she'd hoped to bring into the studio. I will ask no more. I don't want to be nosy. But missing, those, again, the connection points. Places like art hives do serve as a bridge. I just keep coming back to the idea of a bridge. New color. Let's work on some orange here. There are other spaces that provide that as well. I think that's, again, one of the reasons why whatever happens during this time, I think we'll come out of it with, we already have it. We're already recognizing just how special it is to be able to connect with people, to have relationships, and the different kinds and qualities of relationships that you can have with people. It's not simply friend or not friend. It's not stranger or not stranger. There's so many different ways to know people. There's so many different ways to know ourselves and to become ourselves, or become other versions of ourselves if we choose, if we want to, or when we have to. I think I've kind of had a little bit of a wake-up call. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm sure this isn't the case for everyone, but just a little tiny bit of a wake-up call with regards to how precious and perhaps how fragile, not fragile, no, relationships can be very, very strong, but our ability, the opportunities to create relationships, I think maybe we, to a certain extent, we were taking that for granted before. I'm not sure. Maybe not everyone. That's just a random thought I'm putting out there. Discuss. So Annie, the bridge. The thing about the bridge is that it's such an accessible one. Oh, as a model for bridge building. The studio as model for bridge building, as the thing that helps you get from one place to another, that introduces you from one area to another, one relationship to the next, that provides you with that opportunity for growth. Yeah, I think it's for me holds true. relationships as Relationship as the key to wellness for me have always been a big thing. Not that you need to have a million relationships. We're not talking about Facebook, but we're not talking about Facebook as the model for wellness here. It's not how many friends you have or how many relationships you have in your life, but the quality of those relationships and knowing that you have a capacity to build meaningful relationships when it feels right to you, right? I think that's an enormously important thing. And if we're disconnected physically for too long, or if we don't have the ability to reach out to someone, to be seen and heard in some kind of authentic way, uh, I don't know, it can become a little scary. I don't, Maybe it also becomes harder to see ourselves mirrored in other people. So maybe we lose part of ourselves, or we miss becoming familiar with part of ourselves that we might see reflected in someone else who shares the same passion about something, or who is made scared by the same thing, or who has overcome something that we are going through now. I think it's important to have opportunities to discover those relationships, to stumble upon them sometimes. And sometimes that happens through things like school, through classes, through clubs or organizations. Sometimes I think it happens through places like the living room, right? Where you can meet someone that you wouldn't otherwise take a risk of connecting with. Not because you didn't want to necessarily, because there's a million reasons why. I've heard them all at the studio. You don't want to be rude, you don't want to interrupt, you don't want to be weird, right? There's lots of reasons why we don't just approach strangers. Having some kind of structure is important. Uh, so on the metaphor of bridges again, Bridget, I think she's had to leave to run for groceries, but has offered to bedazzle the ramp at the studio into a kind of cool bridge. Okay, B. Okay, it's out there now. It's out there. We're going to bedazzle the heck out of that ramp. It will be so blingy. It'll be just sparkling. People will be able to see it from outer space. Excellent. It's happening. Hmm. Yeah, and the idea of being a part of different communities, helping with Lisa. Lisa sees that. Yeah, and I think knowing how to balance them out and not feel, excuse me, um, or to know how to handle what can occasionally happen, that feeling of being overwhelmed, or cat hair, or the feeling of being torn, like learning how to find balance and create boundaries for yourself and know that it's okay, right? With the relationships that you have. Wow. If you've built them from a really authentic place with people who have a certain self-awareness themselves, then it'll be okay. Like learning how to trust those meaningful relationships that you've built. It's a really beautiful thing. Carlos, as cheesy as this sounds, he says, Carlos is never cheesy. For those of you who know Carlos, I've never heard him be cheesy in my life. I think Carlos is delightfully profound. That's how I would describe Carlos. Want to know, what are you saying, Carlos? Yeah, it's important to reestablish the relationship with ourselves too. It can be tough just to be still with ourselves, but the awkward stillness can also be a good opportunity to reflect and create. I absolutely, yeah, 100 million%. Easier said than done for sure, yeah. But a steady process that takes its own time. No, it made total sense. Again, I was a latecomer to the Green brothers, the Vlog brothers, who I quote all the time, but just to quote his when he was, I can't remember now if he was in a residency before he became a writer. was considering going into service in the ministry, and he was, I think, on a placement in chaplaincy at a hospital and in the palliative care unit. I could be making that part up, but he, on difficult days, um, his supervisor, the minister he was working with, the chaplain he was working with, would remind him that there's not much you can do sometimes. And it's the opposite of that fantastic saying that so many of us grew up with, the don't just stand there, do something. In those moments, in these moments perhaps, we're asked to not just do something, but to stand there, to be present with whatever it is we're going through, whatever it is someone else might be going through. Yeah. And if you have that relationship with yourself, or if you're aware of working on it, and I'm only speaking because this is where I'm at in my own life, building that relationship with myself. It becomes easier to trust that you're building healthier relationships with others, because you have a stronger sense of yourself. You have a stronger internal compass, I suppose. You're not just living out the desires or the wishes of other people, like your parents or the social group or cultural kind of expectations of who you should be. You have a sense of who you are, so everything else naturally becomes stronger. So you can go back and forth between communities. Like Lisa's been, it's amazing watching Lisa's journey over time, and between the knitting community or the fitness community, or perhaps someone's, you might have a church community, a school community, work community. It's like there's so many different parts and aspects of ourselves, right? Yeah. Before seeing someone, I had to learn to love myself first. Those are Lisa's words. And yeah, amazing. Amazing. Truth, 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 truth. It's an abstract idea, but I think it comes from just trying. What does it take to love ourselves? It's a big question. And I think as we go through life, it changes. The nature of our relationship with ourselves changes and evolves. And maybe there's times we fall out of love with ourselves and need to learn how to fall in love again. I'm not sure. Or learn to love new things about ourselves. We only learn that if we take the time to be with ourselves, which can be super difficult sometimes. And then Suzanne. Hey, Suzanne. Yeah. Oh, thanks. It's that, well, thanks, like it's me. But she was just saying how she's learned, she met so many people. She's met so many people through the studio. And a lot about yourself, a lot about art, coming to the living room. And I mean, a huge part of that, of course, is because you made yourself available to that process to happen in the first place, right? And yeah, how the relationship you have, that we all have with our inner critics, that is, talk about an ongoing relationship. I haven't learned how to evict my inner critics just yet, and maybe I don't want to. I mean, every once in a while, they have something constructive to say. They're trying to help, I think. That's one of the big things I've learned about so many of my critics. They're not necessarily good things to have around, and they can be highly destructive, but it comes from some kind of coping place originally, right? How transparent is this? Maybe another piece. Yeah, the critic that wanted to help, and maybe at one time did help. Maybe it protected you somehow, helped you get through. But over time, if that voice doesn't alter as you grow and change, and if it prevents you from doing what you want to do, from being what you want to be or want to try being, needs to be checked. Maybe we'll do that one of these Wednesdays. I know I kept threatening at the studio to do an activity I actually did with my class at the Toronto Art Therapy Institute with the lovely and amazing Charlene Friedman was making kind of like finger puppets out of our inner critics using model magic and things like that. And so you just spend all this time like getting to know, well, in my case, one of my inner critics and giving them a face or, just something you could talk back to. Another really playful way to approach these things that our grown up selves can struggle with so much. It's not about having the answers, it's sometimes just about being able to take the risk of engaging with the issue, with the problem. And you know me, I'm always going to encourage approaching it and engaging it in a creative way. See, I got my mug. This mug was given to me by Juliana, one of my amazing placement students from Ontario Tech U. I'm not, students, you don't have to buy me things if you're watching. It's okay, you don't have to. No, you really don't have to. It's okay. Let's see. Okay. Another one. Boo, boo, boo. I'll put that aside to dry as well. And if I am by any, if there's folks out there who are enjoying or gathering some kind of inspiration from this, just saw that lovely little note from Chelsea. I want you to know that the only way I can do that, the only reason I can do that, is because you guys, that's what you guys are giving me. Again, this project, like the whole living room project, at the end of the day is really selfish, super selfish. It gives me a chance to learn and connect and hear people's stories and witness what they're going through. And part of the journey that I've had through the living room is also learning how to share what I'm going through with people as well. The worlds I come from. Oh, cool, Prin. Hello. Prin? That's awesome. Hi. Hello. Oh, wow. Okay, sorry, distracted. Meeting new people virtually. Awesome. Where was I? Yes, I was talking about how you guys inspire me. So a lot of the worlds I come from, professionally speaking, there's this idea of either or. You play a role and the person you're working with is doing something else, and there's not a lot of overlap. So for example, if I'm, those times where I was wearing my art therapist hat, the idea of, obviously it's not about you, it's about the person that you're working with. That makes sense. But one thing about working in community that I've learned, and Art Hive's community art studios have specifically taught me this, you guys have helped me learn this, is that when things work well in community, and revisiting everything we've been chatting about here, about what boundaries mean and look like, and learning how to love yourself so you can know yourself, so that you can have healthier, better relationships with other people in your life, learning how to reconnect with the part of you, that playful part of you that wasn't as afraid to take creative risks, but was still pretty awesomely selfish, right? Because kids can be like that beautiful kind of desire that's unimpeded by anything else of, I know I want this and it's going to make me happy. I'm happy even thinking about it. That's a beautiful thing. So I don't mean selfish in a bad way. But the idea of knowing that I can be a part of something as well, that it's okay that there will be times where things are about me, where things are, and it's okay, I think, and this isn't necessarily I say as a therapist, that world is separate in a weird way. But when I'm working with community, one of the reasons I love it so much is because it gives me an opportunity to be a part of something larger than myself. And I can't necessarily be a part of something if I'm holding myself on the outside, if I'm holding myself on the outskirts of something, right? Knowing, like having that relationship with myself so I can check in, know what I need. And I think everyone, that's something we all need, if I may speak for myself. Um, that's part of that self-love, right? Knowing yourself enough to know when you feel safe enough to reach out and ask for help. But um, the inspiration comes from knowing that I can also reach out, that it's not just, it's like the living room is about community. It's not the Mary show. Even though sometimes doing this, I feel like it could be a really weird Mary show. But my cup is continually filled by people contributing and reaching out and just engaging. That's all it really is. It's not even about giving things, whether like a lovely mug from a student. No, it's not about proving that you're of value or useful. Just when people are present with me, when people engage with one another, when I see that happening, it's such an extraordinary thing. I don't know if I can really put words to it. I just know that I've seen it happen at the studio. I see it happen here, which I cannot explain how hopeful, like how much hope that gives me. Oh, wow. So there we go. This is such a great example of how we can connect, how this platform, whatever, the social media weirdness that we're in right now, this virtual connecting. So I didn't know, Susan. So, Susan, you live 3.5 hours away now. I had no idea. Did I? Oi, oi. That's, yeah, I love that you can be here with us as well, even though you're so far away, and connect and be a part of this community. This is community expanded, right? We can't see each other, we can't hear each other, we can't smell each other. And believe me, there were days at the studio where, sometimes it can get smelly, right? Not necessarily a bad thing. We can't smell one another in the same way right now, but we can be together. Oh, that's amazing. So you and your daughter, so Chelsea and Susan didn't know that you were connecting, you were watching this live stream today, and you just happened to connect here? Okay, that's amazing. I love it. I love it. And there might be folks watching and taking part, if I'm not mistaken, like from far, farther away. Different time zones, potentially, if I'm not mistaken. So thanks for staying up late or being up early. I'm not sure. But thanks for being here. Yeah, so how are things in Ottawa too? I'd love to know what things are like at other places if you're away somewhere. Christine was just remembering how on a hot summer day with glue, the living room is very interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. For those of you who are unfamiliar, we are not sniffing glue. I think I should clarify that point. Um, no, 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 no. I mean, not intentionally. But, and we do check in with folks, we check in with one another to make sure we're okay. The studio on a hot summer day is just one thing altogether, removing all other interesting smells from the space. It becomes a studio of fans. Not like people cheering, but basically us borrowing, stealing every other kind of fan we can have to circulate air in the space. Yes. Thanks for the clarification, Christine. The glue can be really smelly. And in fact, I dipped back to the studio because I realized I had taken all my Mod Podge to the studio. So when we were out on running errands this week, I snuck in to grab some more supplies. And I picked up this Mod Podge. I don't know, like if I can sort of show it for the camera there. Because our materials are donated, it's really, really interesting. Like, this is a kind of Mod Podge I've never seen being sold in any store. I suspect it's ancient, and if I look inside, I'm not going to show you what it looks like inside because, well, I mean, appetizing isn't the word, but it does remind me of, kombucha, or kombucha, depending on how you say it, how it starts from that weird mushroomy thing. Basically, I think I've got a Mod Podge esque starter happening in this container. I think it is uh, something's going on there, and there's something alive in there. That's what I'm saying. There's something alive. So yeah, I guess there's a chance we may not be back in the studio this summer. So we could be doing a lot more of this from the comfort, hopefully, the comfort of our own homes. Oh, wow. So Susan living in a place called Calabogie? Calabogie. I've heard of that place, I think. Calabogie? And lots of, yeah, like a really creative, artistic community. Well, nothing like the living room, though. Well, yeah, I think whenever people tell me, about where they're living, the communities they're living in, if there's not an art hive, there's an opportunity. And depending on the nature, the size of your town or your city, uh, if you come from a smaller place, the possibility of being able to start something there, it might be easier than it is to start something than it was to start something in Oshawa. Oftentimes, it's difficult if you come from a larger city, especially if the city is gentrified or has already, depending on what real estate prices are like and things like that. But um, I think smaller towns or smaller cities can have a little more leeway to take creative risks, essentially, to start businesses or enterprises, or to assist with them, help them get off their feet. On one hand, it could be because there's nothing much to lose. If there's an empty storefront on your main street, or something, a space, any kind of space that could use activating. I'm a big believer in activating space. I love it. I love the concept. Before we actually paid rent at the living room space at 149 Simcoe Street South, we would do pop-ups all over Oshawa. So we do pop-ups in restaurants. If, after they closed, we just kind of move in and with their permission, and make art and just let people know informally around that, put up a few posters, put up a message on Facebook saying, hey, we're going to be at this, the table, making art, hanging out for a few hours on every Sunday afternoon. And that was a fantastic and free way to, again, learn about who our community was, what kind of folks were out there, what they wanted, what they needed, what they were dealing with, the different kind of dreams and desires they had going on. And it was free. It didn't cost anything at all. It was a pain in the butt to haul all the art supplies there every week, bins and bins of supplies, but it was cheap and it was just as meaningful. So there might be opportunities there. We even did our first pop-up at the living room. We just did on the front porch. We asked the landlord if it was okay to use the porch because there's a lot of space there, and we really wanted to connect with that community directly because for those of you who've been to the living room, it's kind of has elements like that community. There's a lot of stigma in that community, including sometimes directed at the community by the people who live in that community themselves. Just a real history of struggle and of not being liked and not, kind of like for a long time it feels like regionally or municipally, people not paying attention, like not investing in how the area looked. No garbage cans, no benches, A lot of boarded up windows on the front of shops and things like that, um, which is really, really hard for any community. It's hard not to take it personally. It's hard not to start believing what other people see without actually experiencing themselves. Because we know, everyone here knows, that again, communities aren't made of things or buildings necessarily. Places are made by people. Another thing that gives me enormous hope in the times like these. So get to know the people, you get to know the place, and anything becomes possible. I say anything, I mean a lot of things. I still haven't found that magic wand that would enable all my dreams to come true. If anyone has one out there, let me know. I might rent it off of you for a little while. Oh, wow. So small, small, small towns. So starting an art hive in a town with only one store. Susan, you got me thinking. And there's a project that I've been trying to get off the ground for a long time that might be a perfect fit. I'll keep you posted. I feel like I'm why don't I just share it? I'm kind of being cagey about it because right now it's just a dream, but it's so much more than a dream. It's something that I think will happen. It will happen eventually. Although if that's this year, next year, 10 years from now, I don't know. But we're really working on creating a mobile studio. And if that's the case, it would free us up to serve a lot of underserved communities, to take road trips and bring the living room experience to folks like you. And then, of course, they'll see and they'll say, oh my goodness, why don't we have an art hive here permanently? Let's build a building just for this art hive. Susan, would you like to run it? And then, it's, takes off from there. Yeah, the mobile studio is still a ways off, but we're working on it. And I'm kind of, when I get excited about something, that's where my childish, that kind of playfulness comes in. I can't not imagine it becoming a reality. So I will keep you posted. And there's a lot of folks out there, a lot of community stakeholders who also want to see it happen, just figuring out all the details. What time is it? Oh my goodness, it's 3:13. Guys, we've been, it's about 15 or 20 more minutes to hang out together. I'm not sure what folks are working on out there, but I've been enjoying playing with tissue paper so much. So much. And I will definitely share the final window with you once I have it done. And I don't know, I think, I don't want to, again, the idea of challenging people, there's been a lot of challenges out there for people. Challenges to do, oh, I know, the mug's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. The earth without art is just, eh. Yes, challenges. I think there's a lot of challenges out there. People challenging people to do handstands and put their shirts on, or like to do creative art in their windows, or to bake sourdough bread, whatever all those things are about. And I think it's part of this drive to still feel purposeful and like we're doing something and helping and being active during a time where so many of us are being asked to just be still. I get it. I do get it. But, and again, here we are, doing these. So I think it's a natural feeling, a natural impulse, the desire to be of help, to support people, to want to contribute or be a part of the solution. But again, what we're dealing with right now, it's not that kind of thing. It's not something that we necessarily have a solution for. One day, right? One day there will be, but for right now, there's not. So finding that balance within ourselves. Again, coming back to that theme of balance. If you want to take on a challenge, go for it. If it helps you to have your days structured and busy and to be taking on things and engaging the communities that encourage that kind of activity, go for it. If it's just enough to, get up every day and do the things just to take care of yourself, having breakfast, having a shower, doing laundry, reading a book, watching some TV, if those things help get you through, then that's enough, right? I think we can't force wellness during this time, and we can't force happiness during this time. Those are things we stumble upon when we're focusing on taking care of ourselves, right? You can't be positive. You can do things that help you stay in a positive place. But again, positivity is very much like that normal word. What positive is to you might be very different to what positive means to me. And sometimes positive to me is sitting down and having a really good cry. Oh man. Well, I'm glad it's resonating with folks out there. I think again, we're not alone in this. Sometimes we might have to remind other folks though about what we need to take care of ourselves and what's best. It's teaching people about who we are. I think it's a natural thing to make assumptions about one another. We do that. We just do it. We're human animals. We do it. The only thing wrong with assumptions is when we don't check them out and investigate whether or not they're actually true. So taking the time to get to know someone else or to check in before we impose our idea of wellness on them, that's a big deal. That's a really beautiful thing to learn how to do. All right. Wellness rant over. What do we see? Oh, hey, Nicole Hen. Making a table runner, back to making. Excellent. But running low on yarn. Oh no. Oh no. That's a question that came up the other day in our live stream Insta chat with Christine Weatherly about what's happening, what people are doing when they're running low on supplies. A lot of us trying to be respectful and not order things unnecessarily or run on errands unnecessarily. What are you doing? What do you do when you run out of yarn? Well, actually, I might have someone doing an Insta chat in the next month or so who might be able to help with that. Her name's Dev, and you can follow Dev on Instagram. I think her name's Dev, or that's her Instagram handle. So I call her Dev, even though that's not actually her name. She spins her own yarn. She cards and creates her own yarn out of various things. And sometimes she repurposes things that she finds, other yarns or other sweaters, things like that. Sometimes it's really fascinating stuff. So if you haven't checked out her Instagram, Dev Spins, I think it's called, I encourage you to take a visit and see. Because who knows, Nicole, you might find an opportunity to create your own yarn for the runner. Unique, one-of-a-kind expression. Or you can work on something else. Yeah, exactly. That too. Let's see. Oh, that's fantastic. So it seems like a lot of groups who used to meet in person are meeting up virtually. They continue to do that. Amazing. Let's see, where can I put this? Boop, over there. I've got a heap of colored tissue paper beside me. So it's an amazing thing watching everyone go online, taking their groups and their clubs and their organizations online, finding ways to maintain and continue doing what they love. Love it. Love, 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 love. Deb spins. Deb spins? Okay, now I'm just reading out random words and comments from the thread. Apologies to anyone in the future who watches this who can't access the comments as we go. Oh, yeah, so Lisa's saying she wants to learn how to spin. Um, yeah, Dev uses a drop spindle, so she doesn't need a whole lot of complicated machinery. She's self-taught. Uh, it's pretty awesome. So I'm looking forward to connecting you folks with her. Yeah. And yeah, and the other thing as well, like Nicole, have way too many things. Me too. We have lots of stuff. So many of us have so many materials we can use up. New, like things that have been waiting around forever that we can finally have a chance to do if we like. And again, you don't need to either, right? All you got to do is just be you, and I'll remind you of how to do that if you keep reminding me how to do that. And we'll just, we'll check in, guys. We'll check in. Oh, is that a heart? That's Stan. All right. So again, things I find from the studio. One thing I love about sharing supplies with the community is just this, about stumbling upon moments like this, where someone has used part of a piece of tissue paper and then returned the rest to the shelf, and I go there and I pick up the tissue paper and I come across part of their work. Um, just a little connection to someone out there and what they were working on. I don't know why I'm so moved by that, but I really am. Yeah. I don't know whose heart that is, but it's officially going in my window. I'm going to try and be very delicate with my kombucha Mod Podge. It will be an interesting time coming out of this. Or learning about connecting with one another again, feeling confident doing that. I worry about it, but I'm also pretty much sure that as soon as we have the green light to connect, it's not like we'll have forgotten. I think there might be a moment or two where we hopefully check ourselves, and like I'm excited about the potential of kind of people becoming more familiar or refamiliar, or there's the introduction of consent. The idea of checking in with someone before you hug them, for example, which I had to learn when I opened the studio because I just hugged everybody. Not everybody wants that. Heads up. I think as much as I worry that there might be a cautiousness to how we connect. We might be a little more wary. We might investigate things a little more, sharing supplies, the nature of the sharing economy might be impacted by this a little bit. How comfortable we feel touching other things that strangers have used, for example. I know we'll come through it though, and I'm pretty sure we'll bounce back. I'm hoping we bounce back wiser. What does wise even mean? I'm not sure. How about kinder? I hope we bounce back kinder. Yeah. Huh. Maybe that's a good place to wrap up right now. Or to begin wrapping up. Hey, Cora. Oh my goodness, Cora. Cora, if you want to cry, cry. That was one of the projects we were working on before uh, we had to close the studio. We got really excited about it, and I think Bee's on errands, so not here to comment, but we got really excited about the concept of creating a public crying league. Came out of a conversation where just with other studio community members about uh, times we'd cried in public but felt inhibited or embarrassed or ashamed. Um, and the idea was, well, what if we didn't have to be embarrassed? What if there was some way to give everyone permission to cry when they wanted to cry, when they needed to cry, for whatever reason they had to cry? And there's some way we could kind of normalize it. Not that, I wish we didn't have to, but, every once in a while, a nudge. Art can do that. Art can be really, really, really good at doing that. And thus the concept, the idea for the Public Crying League was born. I think there's other names. We're still working on a cool name. We haven't figured it out. We'd like to create like jackets and everything. Anyways, if anyone has any suggestions for what we can call it, let me know. But in the meantime, we're just going to have to cry. We're just going to have to lead the way. Cry for joy, cry for sadness, cry out of anger, out of relief. It's okay to cry. So beautiful. Yeah, and that beautiful, beautiful little note of positivity. Look, see, we're connecting now in new ways. And some of us are having opportunities to connect for the first time because of this, because we've had to slow down a little bit, or we have an opportunity to try something we've never tried before, connecting in a new way. Whether it's a virtual knitting group. Lisa's saying if it wasn't for the pandemic, she wouldn't have discovered social distancing. Wouldn't have discovered virtual meetings, right? Learning how to connect with local businesses in new ways. Taking time to smell the roses, or whatever you like to smell. Sourdough starter. I saw that thread. Oh, wow. You guys. Lots of lovely comments. I do also love hearing about living room stuff that people are stumbling upon. Everyone seems to be doing a bit of a spring clean. People finding the first projects they made at the living room. Finding artworks that they created in the space. Coloring books revealing themselves. Again, if the living room has ever given you healing, I want to remind you that it's because of the healing energy you brought into this space to begin with. The capacity and the potential was there, and even when we don't have the space, you still have it there. Carlos, I'm going to have a cheese ball moment. It was there inside of you all along. But it's true. The studio and other community members act as a mirror to reflect that back at you, to let you know what you have, what you already have, that maybe you forgot you have. Right? Oh, wow. Teresa, hello. Oh my goodness. Lovely people, lovely community, near and far. And to all the folks who've been listening or watching that I haven't had a chance to directly say hi to, I send all my love and hellos to as well. All the people who will watch this in the future, hello. I hope you're doing okay and that you're taking lovely, lovely, delicious care of yourselves, giving yourself time to create, to cry, to connect, to do whatever you need to do. I'm thinking of you. I'm sending you lots of love. And if you have things that you'd like to share here, please do share pictures, share memories, share whatever you like. If you have ideas of things you'd like us to do or me to do in the coming weeks, let me know. But thank you for being there. And thank you for being kind. Kind to me, kind to the community, kind to yourselves. It means a lot. Helps keep me going. And I hope it helps keep you going too, because this shouldn't be about me. Well, it is 3:31 here, guys. Oh, see, we're mirrors. That's what we do. We reflect back and forth. Guys, you are amazing. So glad that you're in my life, in my community, near and far. Please take care this week, and we'll see you again back for another. We do Tuesday live streams where we interview different creators and makers out there in the world on Tuesdays over on Instagram. And we do every Wednesday a live stream pop-up art studio right here. So you're welcome back next Wednesday. Same time, same place. Until then, until we can connect again in person, I really look forward to connecting with you again here. Take care, be kind to one another, and it's been great connecting. See you again next time. Bye. I guess I gotta end the live stream, huh? Or do I? No, I should probably make lunch or something. Bye, everybody. Thank you.